So you want to stop being a filthy mouth breather. Great decision, my friend. I fully support you. Actually, I got a little secret for you. I too am a mouth breather in reform. And I've tried pretty much everything there is in terms of products to help you out on this journey. Some are complete garbage, and some are very good. Luckily for you, I did all the lab rat work so that you can know which one is which. Let's start off with these bad boys right here. These are called Breathe Right strips. Essentially, they are a semi-rigid sticker that you apply on the bridge of your nose like so in order to flare out the nostrils and allow you to breathe a little easier. Do they work? Yeah, they work. Will they work for everyone? No, they won't. You see, if you have sensitive skin, sticking one of these bad boys on your nose every single day will leave your skin on your nose right here on the edge of your nostrils and on your bridge quite raw, red, sensitive, burning even. And honestly, they don't quite work well enough to justify working through that pain, in my opinion. Also, if you have greasy ass skin like mine, they won't work all that well for you either. Need I remind you that this is a sticker, and if you try to apply this sticker over and over and over again in the same spot on your face, it'll work the first couple of times. But after a while, that spot that you keep on sticking will actually start to get greasier. Your body attempts to compensate the dryness that it takes. Every time you take the sticker off, you're removing more of the oils off of that skin. And if you already have greasy skin like mine, it'll get even greasier in that spot. Greasier to a point where this will no longer even stick onto your nose. You'll try to put it on, and then one side will pop right up like this, and then it won't work anymore. There's also the drawdown that, this will make you look like a nerd, a dweeb or whatever, whatever you want. You stick this onto your nose here, and, even the skin-colored ones, the clear ones, they don't make it so that this isn't noticeable. It's always quite noticeable, and it looks weird. It does look weird. I mean, you have this thing stuck onto your face all the time. You're going to look weird. So if you think you're going to stick one of these on and you're going to be slick and nobody's going to notice, you're wrong. People are definitely going to notice, no matter what color you get it. So you know what? I would give these like a 5 out of 10. They work well enough, but they're quite noticeable. And if you have greasy skin or sensitive skin, it's just not a reliable long-term option. It's going to continue to either unstick if you have greasy skin, or it's going to be quite painful if you have sensitive skin. And like I said, it's very noticeable. It's going to make you look weird. But luckily enough, there's a better option that we'll cover later. And by later, I mean now. Take a look at this contraption. I'm not sure how well you can see it on camera, but this is called a nasal dilator, okay? And instead of being applied on top of your nose, on the outside of your nostrils, this here is inserted into your nostrils like this. See, it's got two little wave looking things like that, and you insert it in and it forces your nostrils open like so. These work much, much better in my opinion. Not only do they open your nostrils up much better than the nasal strip, but they leave your skin unaltered, unaffected. Now, not only is this the better option for the person who has sensitive or greasy skin, for anybody who wants to use this while exercising, this is pretty much the only option you have. Because if you use the nasal strip while exercising, okay, you're going to end up sweating. And that sweating is going to unstick the nasal strip. It's going to make it useless, all right? This will allow you to escape that problem. It's inside the nose. It doesn't matter what condition the skin is in, how wet it is, how greasy it is, how sensitive it is. It'll keep your nose open. By the way, if you have not tried working out or exercising in any fashion with one of these in, or with any nasal breathing assistance, I highly recommend it. It greatly increases your endurance, especially if you're like very used to mouth breathing. You're a chronic mouth breather like I am. Having that switch, you'll notice an immediate difference. Trust me, it's worth trying out. Now, one thing I do gotta mention about these nasal dilators is that not all nasal dilators are created equal. This is the good one here, all right? Not these ones here. There's shaped like this. There's some shaped like this, all right? There's some shaped like this. I've tried them all, all right? I went on Amazon and tried all the different kinds of nasal dilators, so you don't have to. And for my own curiosity, of course. And they're all garbage. They're literally unusable, okay? Not just because the shape isn't correct with a lot of these. You want something that actually opens up the nostril and needs to force them up. So some of these weird, odd, like teardrop shapes or circular shapes like that doesn't really do the job. But because the material needs to be right as well. With this good one here, it's a more rigid plastic, you know? It's... especially for the arches here, it's very rigid. It doesn't move all that well, and you want that. You want something to force your nostrils open. It doesn't want to move that much, and that's what you want. That's what you look for when you're getting these. What you don't want is something like this. Get one of these out of the case for you. Look at how flimsy this is. Look at how much it flies around. You want this to be rigid. You don't want it to be moving around like this. This needs to be strong enough not only to spread your nose apart, but to stay in your nose. If it just flops around like this, it'll fall out, no problem. So please avoid these. They're a complete waste of money, and they don't work. If you go on Amazon too, you'll notice they're actually quite a bit more expensive than the ones you can get in the pharmacy, and they're a complete scam. So don't get them. Not any. I haven't seen any version on Amazon that works correctly. I would go to your local pharmacy, go to the decongestants section, and look for a nasal dilator there. And again, look for one that kind of looks like this. All right. Now, even with the good nasal dilator, there's a couple of drawbacks that I gotta mention. All right. First of all is its appearance. It's still much, much better than having that sticker onto your face all the time, but it's still noticeable. If you look at my face now, you'll actually see I have one in. I have one of those good ones in, and you can kind of notice my nostrils are bulged out to the side like that. I mean, that's good. That's what you want it to do, but it still might look a little odd, especially if you're not used to seeing your nostrils bulged out that far. But most importantly, you can still see this sort of middle part going across my septum here. And if you already have a septum piercing, or you think septum piercings are cool, good news, because it's going to look like you have a septum piercing in. But if you're like me and you don't think septum piercings look cool, you think they look quite weird, well, it's going to look like you have a septum piercing in. One thing you got to keep in mind, though, is that you don't necessarily need to have this thing in all the time. I usually only keep it in for going to bed during the nighttime, or when I'm going to the gym to help my exercise performance out. I don't necessarily wear this 24 hours a day, although you could, and it would help you breathe better all day. It's not something you need to wear all the time. So you don't have to have the septum piercing look if you don't want to. The other more real drawback there is to this version is a nasal dryness, okay? If you wear this thing for a long time, and by a long time I mean more than a few hours, you're gonna notice your nasal passages become quite dry, okay? Especially the first few times you wear them, especially when you're trying to transition from mouth breathing to nose breathing. Your nasal passages are already not used to having air constantly flowing in and out of it, but then you're accentuating that even more by opening up the nostrils to having even more air coming in and out of it. So that's going to dry out those nasal passages quite a bit. And like I said, especially those first few times. The best solution, though, to this problem is this stuff right here. Doesn't need to be the exact company, but this is nasal lubricating gel, okay? Now, the key word is nasal lubricating gel, all right? Don't put just any old cream or gel into your nose all the time. I wouldn't put it anytime, let alone regularly. Now, why not? because you're breathing through your nose. Hopefully you are now breathing through your nose. And if you're putting just any old cream up your nose and you're breathing all the time, you're going to breathe some of that in. Now, breathing some of this stuff in is no problem. It's just essentially like a saline gel. You're just inhaling water, right? Little bits of water vapor. But if you put like Vicks or any sort of petroleum-based cream into your nose to lubricate it up and to keep that nasal dilator moist, you're going to be inhaling that cream up as well. And that isn't a saline-based gel. That is a petroleum-based gel. And you're going to inhale that petroleum into your lungs. And that can cause a form of pneumonia called lipoid pneumonia. You do not want to have this, all right? You want to stay far away from any kind of form of pneumonia. You're trying to fix your breathing, not make it worse. This will not give you pneumonia. It'll keep those nasal passages nice and moist. Use it pretty conservatively, though. I wouldn't put huge portions in each nostrils, because then you might have some post-nasal drip, and that's not fun. But it will keep your nasal passages moist. It will keep your dilator moist, and it won't give you pneumonia, which is good. Although I have to note, even with this cream, those first few nights might still be pretty dry upon waking. You might notice it's still very dry and uncomfortable because, again, your nasal passages just aren't used to having all that air coming in and out of it if you've been mouth breathing for a long period of time. Another great tool to help you when considering switching from mouth breathing to nose breathing is tape, in order to mouth tape. Now, as wild as that might sound to some people when they first hear it, this can help you quite a bit when it comes to easing this transition from mouth breathing to nose breathing, especially at night, right? Especially when you're going to bed and you want to continue nose breathing throughout the night, because when you fall asleep, you're no longer conscious and thus cannot tell if you're still nose breathing or not. Having that tape over the mouth will force the mouth shut and force you to nose breathe. Now, when I say tape, I don't just mean any old tape, all right? Please do not use any old tape you have lying around the house. I don't want to see you using Scotch tape. I don't want to see you using masking tape. And God forbid I see you using duct tape on your mouth to help you nose breathe. You're not kidnapping yourself. You're not partaking in any suspect extracurricular activities. You're trying to help yourself nose breathe. And to accomplish this goal, you're going to need the right tool for the right job, yes? Now, what is that tool? This is that tool, my friends. This is sensitive skin medical tape. It's called 3M micropore tape, all right? This is the best tape I've found when it comes to mouth tape, all right? Its adhesive is strong enough to keep your lips nice and together, but it's gentle enough so in the morning when you have to take it off, it's not ripping your skin off, all right? This is the perfect balance. It is pretty expensive, but it lasts quite a long time, and it's the best you can get. 3M micropore tape, that's what I would recommend. Now, if you can't find that kind of tape, or if it's just too expensive for you, I would go with this paper tape, all right? This is paper medical tape. It's breathable, all right? It's not too hardcore when it comes to adhesive, and it won't rip apart your skin. But as far as its ability to keep your mouth shut throughout the night, it's not quite as strong as the other tape, so you might pop open. You might want to use this tape a little bit more liberally, all right? Now, those are the only two tapes I would really recommend. I've tried other kinds of medical tape. There's cloth medical tape, and there is plastic medical tape. They're not as nice and easy on your skin, and they won't stick as well on your lips, okay? Now, if those are all you have or all you can find, then try to make do, I guess. But again, make sure at the very least that it is medical tape. Do not use Scotch masking or duct tape for your mouth. Even if you don't care about your lips being ripped apart or whatever, something that's even more dangerous is that with a lot of these tapes, they use toxic adhesive, okay? And not only are you smearing this toxic adhesive all over this very sensitive skin, which is your lips, but you have it right next to where you breathe, which means you're inhaling toxic adhesive all night. Not a good idea. Use the right tool for the right job, my friend, and you'll be fine. One last tip for those who are just getting into this and are concerned that, this is all well and good. I want to start mouth breathing, I want to end mouth breathing and start nose breathing regularly, especially at night, but I can't breathe all that well through my nose. Even with a dilator, it's not let's just say it's not perfect. And I'm concerned taping my mouth while I can't breathe all that well through my nose will lead to some sort of suffocation or waking up in the middle of the night completely out of breath, ready to pass out. Now, I was kind of concerned about this too when I first started. And the best solution I found is when you're going to bed and you have your tape and you're ready to apply it, you don't necessarily need to go completely from one end all the way over to the other, like completely taping your mouth. The main goal of using mouth tape is not necessarily to completely withhold any airway in your mouth. It's mostly to make sure your mouth remains closed so that your body will prefer nose breathing by default. So what I would recommend is to take a smaller, less long band of tape and do it just across the middle of your mouth, like so, leaving the edges of your mouth, the corners of your mouth exposed, okay? So in worst case scenario, for whatever reason, you can't breathe through your nose in the middle of the night, you can still squeak in some breath through the side, all right? But having that tape in the middle of the mouth will keep your mouth shut and will allow you to continue using your nasal breathing as a default setting, right? Because that's what you want at the end of the day. You want to switch mouth breathing from being your body's default to nose breathing being your body's default. That's the goal. So I hope this helped you out. Hopefully I saved you some money. Like I said, do not go to Amazon to get your stuff. Go to your local pharmacy, get a good nasal dilator, one that's inserted through the nose, not on top, unless you want to look like a dweeb, or if you don't necessarily need the strongest dilation. When you're going for tape, go for a sensitive micropore tape. 3M micropore is the best one I've found. If not, at least use medical tape. And yeah, start this journey. Do it right, because it does improve your quality of life to a noticeable degree. You will breathe better, you will feel better if you breathe through your nose more than you breathe through your mouth. And if you want to learn more about this process or anything more when it comes to nose breathing, I would recommend subscribing, because there's more to come. I gotta shill a little bit, don't I? I gotta shill myself a little bit here, because there's more to come in the future, baby. See you next time.